Hi BookTube, welcome to Jackie's Literary Corner. I am Jackie and it's time for a 7 on Sunday. Right now I'm going to put these books down because they are really annoying me because they keep slipping out, and since this is a big pile. Okay, give me a moment. Okay. This is such like, I don't mind doing this kind of thing, but books for some reason they keep sliding in on my grip. Okay. Alright. Now I can talk. I'll throw drop anything. Okay, so this week's topic is your top 7 books in series you want to read in 2023. Okay, and there's one thing that most of these all have in common is I've started them but have not finished them. Okay, so let's do it. Let's talk about the 7 books in both standalones and series I want to continue with or read in 2023. Okay, so first is the Powder Maid trilogy by Brian McClellan, and I need to get to the second book. I meant to do it last year, but then I was thinking, let me finish the First Law trilogy first, and then I'll get to. And I said that, and I decided that because I got them at the same time. I started buying those series at the same time, and I didn't get the second one of the Powder Maid trilogy before but I did get the second and third in the First Law. So I was like, let me just finish that, and then I'll get to the Powder Maid. Well, it took me the whole year to finish that trilogy. Yes, it took me a whole year to finish that trilogy. But now I'm gonna start with finishing this trilogy, the Powder Maid trilogy, and the second book is The Crimson Campaign. And what's good, so I just gotta read the second book, and then I have just one more book, and hopefully it will be at the Books A Million by the time I buy it. This is, I think, considered a flintlock fantasy, which I wasn't sure if I like it or not, but I do. I like both this and the Dark Grim that First Law it comes from, is part of. And this is basically, these guys have escaped a revolution, a revolution has just happened, and the revolutionaries have won, and they're just trying to keep this war together and make sure no one takes away their win. You have one of my favorite aspects of this is one of the perspectives is the leader who's a little bit old enough to be a dad, and his son is almost an adult himself and a soldier in the army. So I like that we get a main character that is around the age to have an adult son and is trying to protect his son and trying to keep this whole thing together. It's a really cool thing. I like the magic system of inhaling powder for your magic, and the idea it could be addicting. It's just a really cool concept so far. So I just have to read the second one and then at some point buy the third one, which I would like to ideally make it this year. So there's that one. So next we have Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell by Susanna Clark, and I meant to finish this one last year, but this is a big book. I ended up bringing her second one, Paranesi. It's not her second book because she also wrote a book. I can't remember what it's called, but it's in this world, based in this world. But the other, and I have not read that one either. But like I said, I did read her book Paranesi, which is a lot shorter than this one. Ideally, the plan originally was to finish this book and then get to Paranesi, but there was no way I was going to finish this book. This is let's see, what time period? In 1806. It's set in 1806, and there was a time when magic did exist, but no longer exists anymore. And so they study it. People will study it, and that's who are the magicians in this world in the present. But then this one particular magician, an actual magician, not just someone who studies the craft of magic, Mr. Norrell reveals himself. And after he proves that he is legit, he becomes very popular. And everyone loves him because he's a new magician and they never heard of. And he's a real magician. And then this young guy shows up, Jonathan Strange. And he ends up being a really good magician too. And at first they become, master and apprentice. But then over time they sort of become rivals and get very competitive. And you have Mr. Norrell is very traditional, doesn't like sharing the idea of the position of power. He doesn't like sharing it. And Jonathan Strange has all these new ideas for magic, and it turns into they become enemies. So far I love it. I love this book, and it has a very Dickensian feel to it as well, with the writing style and everything. But yeah, so maybe I'll finish it this year. This might not be one I'll finish this year, but I am putting on this list as a one that I want to try to finish this year. But there's that. So those are the first two, and then we have number 3 is one that I actually chose to read. I am currently reading now. Let me find it. And that is The Physician by Noah Gordon. This is a book I hadn't heard of, and I did not recognize never heard of the author until I bought the book when we first moved here. I think I probably got it the first full year we were here. This is historical fiction about this young man who gets apprenticed to a barber surgeon who is kind of a traveling salesman type con artist. He sells all these fake remedies, but he kind of has some idea of medicine. And our main character is a boy in the beginning, and it's his life story. Rob, he travels with him and learns medicine, and it also turns out he has a gift to knowing when someone's gonna die. And he ends up wanting to go to this medical school in the Middle East, this Arab medical school, but because he's a Christian, he cannot go. So he lies and pretends that he is Jewish to get into this school. And I'm up to the part where that's gonna be happening soon, where he's gonna try to get into the school, or at least hear about it. And it's a really good story. It is slow moving, but it's still really good. It's kind of cool to, watch as they travel from town to town and all their experiences, and how in this whole the tension between the barber surgeon and Rob, and how as he gets older he gets more moody and temperamental, and he has all these ideas and stuff of how to do things, and he tends to get drunk and cause trouble and just have the barber surgeon having to deal with it and babysit him. But it's also, there's also sad moments that I've read where he's trying to find his family again, as he gets closer to returning to his home to visit, and he has not found them. They are not there anymore, and it's very sad. But so far it's good. It's just slow. So that is number 3. So the 4th book is a classic, and that is Paradise Lost by Milton. As you can see, I did start reading this, but it's been a while since I picked it up again, so I am thinking about starting over with it. But this is an epic poem about the fall of Adam and Eve and Lucifer. The first part is Lucifer's downfall and how he becomes the devil we know, and the rest of it will be about Adam and Eve and their downfall. It's a hard, I'm still kind of learning and getting into epic poetry. It is a bit more challenging, because it's basically a huge poem. And I'm not trying to pretend to be smart or anything, you know, I do read a lot, obviously, but oftentimes I get, you know, confused and have a hard time following along with what's going on in the poem, in the epic poem. So I want to keep trying, improve. I do have something to say, but it is a struggle, you know. So I want to try this again. And like I said, I want to start this from the beginning, and I feel like it can also be timing, because if I have distractions, like if I'm trying to read this in the car while we're going on a road trip, that might be a little more challenging, hard for me to tune out the other noises around me, like the radio. So like right now would be a great time because it's really quiet and my dad's is, you know, gone golfing for the day. So now would be a good time, but I do want to get these what I'm filming right now filmed, because I am filming this early. So and then I have another video I want to film, or like, well, technically 3 more, because I think I'm going to split it up into 3 videos. But well, oh wait, actually, one more video. There is one other video I want to do, or possibly 2. So 5 videos, basically 5 videos that I want to film. I might film today. I might save 2 of them for tomorrow. But anyway, so yes, I want to get to Paradise Lost and maybe start from the beginning, rereading it again. So next is another classic, which is a little easier to read than that one. And, you know, yes, I know some people might be like, oh, it's just poetry. It's not that hard. But for me, it is. Okay? Because sometimes I'm not used to reading poetry, and sometimes it can be very confusing. But anyway, so book number 5 we're on is Dombey and Son. Again, another one that I've started and want to finish it. Possibly this year, but I don't know if that will happen or not. But this is about Mr. Dombey and his family, and how he's always wanted a son to take over the business with him. He's always all about, he needs Dombey and Son, but his first child is a girl. Florence is her name, and he doesn't really care about her. He's like, oh, you're just a girl, you're not important. And so he kind of ignores her. And worse of all, her mom ends up dying, so she doesn't have any female companionship or a woman to look up to and admire. And he finally gets as he does, but before the mom dies, she ends up giving birth to a little boy, who they name Paul. And so Mr. Dombey sets out to prepare this boy to be his future partner. But things apparently do not go according to plan for Mr. Dombey. And so far, this is really good. I'm really enjoying it. And, once again, Dickens has a way with creating quirky, slightly exaggerated characters that are fun to read about and that you can enjoy. And just have really strong feelings about, and just there's so many intricate plots going on. Like, I definitely do better with Dickens's longer works, because I have more time to digest what's going on and to figure out what's going on than his shorter works that are a little more straight to the point. But yeah, I started this in 2021, and I meant to pick it up again in 2022. I mean, I might have started in 2022. I'll have to see what it says on Goodreads when I started this, but and as you can see, it's been well read. But I mean, although that's more to do with the fact that I got it from thrift books, so it's a little already plenty worn. But I kind of made it, you know, this happened. So, and that's the next book I want to pick up and get back to. Okay, so that was number 5. So we got 2 more to go. Okay, next is Rune of Kings, another one that I've already started. This is an interesting structure, because this one starts out like this guy's in jail. He's been put in jail, and his jailer approaches him, or the woman who brought him to the prison is like, you know, has him wanting him to tell his story. And so he starts to tell his story, But then she interrupts him and saying, now I'm going to tell my story, my perspective of your story. So it's a story within a story within a story kind of structure, if that makes any sense. And I know a lot of people, that's the problem. For some people, that's the big criticism here, is it's very confusing and hard to follow along. Because of that structure, of how it goes back and forth between the two versions of the same story. And they take place during different times about our main character. One is in his past when he was growing up, and then the other one is a little closer to the present, I think. I did like it. I have liked it so far. And I like the characters. They're very fun to read about, and I definitely am curious of what is going to happen with him, especially hearing what the reading the back description, how he might turn out to be. The prophecy on him might be about him becoming the bad guy, becoming the villain instead of the hero, which most of these kind of stories, the characters prophesize to be the hero to save the people. So I'm intrigued by the plot. But I can see where it gets confusing. I can see where it can be confusing because it's like, trying to figure out, like, link it all together and everything. Once I start reading it again, I will be able to tell you guys more about this plot. The problem is a lot of times the reason I need to pick up and start reading a book again to explain the plot, especially when it comes to fantasy. So, Ruin of Kings, I need to start that again. I'm not going to start over this one, I'm just going to keep going. So we got one more book to go, and then I am done. Okay, so the last one is a little bit simpler of a plot, or a little bit easier for me to explain. And that is 7on by Raymond E. Weiss. This is the 4th volume in the Rift War saga, the last book. And this is really fun. I think, when you, like, as you get into more mature fantasy, like if you're a young person, a teenager, and you're getting into more adult fantasy, I think this is one of those series that's a good place to start with that. So I didn't realize this. So it invites comparison with Tolkien's Lord of the Rings. But the first book kind of starts out with being a coming-of-age story about this young boy named Pug who ends up showing signs of magic, even though and he trains with a magician in this world of Midikima, and then a rift opens up in their world, and people from another world start coming through, and a war starts. Because they don't know how to respond to the people, this Midikima don't know how to respond to them, and they're threatened by them. And actually, that reminds me similar to the history of the world in the book The Wolf, with the Anakin people versus the Southerners. That it's a similar kind of situation where the Southerners show up in their land, the Anakin's land, and at first they're very cautious about each other, but over time they end up becoming bitter enemies. And I feel like that in the first 2 books, that's kind of the direction it's going with these two, with the people from this other world. And it's not just about Pug anymore, it's about the whole kingdom. It's about, like, the king and his 2 sons, and it's about Pug and his friends, including the king's daughter, who's the same age as Pug and his best friends. And it really surprised me, some of the directions it went with certain tropes and stuff. And so far I'm really enjoying it. I mean, it still feels like an older series. And there was, in the 3rd book, I do feel like they kind of do that, fridging a female character for a male character's development. But I can't wait to read this one, so I can say I finally finished my first series of the year, hopefully. So I will read this soon. So those are the 7 books, standalone books and series I want to continue with this year. Or hope some of them, hopefully I'll finish. But if I don't, that's okay. So what are some series books from a series or standalone books do you want to read this year? Please share in the comments below what those are. And if you guys like this video, be sure to give a thumbs up. Click subscribe if you haven't already. Click the bell notification below to see when I post new videos. And of course, I will post a link to the Goodreads group if you are interested in doing a 7 on Sunday topic. And I will talk to you all later. All right, bye!